We were going to use the projector, but we were told we weren't allowed to do so. So we made some big posters. So if you'd be a little patient, we can set the posters up so we can do that. So I'm going to turn over to Steve. Steve happens to be our Political Action Committee chair. He's the one that runs the committee in which we vet the potential school board members and send our recommendations to on who we'd like to see on the board. So at this point, I'll turn it over to him.
All right. It's just like a PowerPoint, except half the room can't see and they're made out of trees. Other than that, we're ready to go. I'm here to present some graphs that are prepared by the California Teachers Association using numbers from the district's own unaudited actuals. We've got a couple of different kinds of graphs. Some of them take an aspect of our budget and look at it over a 6-year period, and others compare our district with neighboring districts. This first graph, I'm sure most of us would just as soon forget. These are the declining revenues over the last 6 years. It was statewide. It wasn't the district's fault, but some pretty deep cuts happened because of those. But as we can see down here, this year's budget, things are leveling off. In fact, they're a little bit better. In fact, since these numbers were published, we know we can add 3.4% to that budget. And we know that several years out, it's going to get better and better. Thanks to the governor's Prop 30, the teachers fought hard for, and thanks to LCFF. Now, this was not unique to our district, but how we responded to it was. That's our next graph. This is our beginning balance for 6 years running. In other words, this is the rollover from the previous year. Now, although our revenues steadily declined, our beginning balance didn't. In fact, it remained rather constant between $41 million and $55 million. That's a lot of unspent money. It's as if we were saving for a rainy day in the middle of a hurricane. Who are we saving this money for? Are we saving this money for some future students or future teachers that are somehow more worthy than the ones you currently have? And when I look at this chart, I can't help but think of all those students in all those years that we stuck into combo classes and we told their folks we didn't have any options. Because clearly we had millions of options. It's not right, and it's not typical. That's not what most districts do. Now, I'm not suggesting that we run the tank dry at the end of every year. That would be foolish, and in fact, law would prevent us from doing so. The law states that we need a 3%, a minimum of 3% in reserves. So let's see how our neighbors handled that. Not surprising, most districts are playing it rather conservative. Instead of 3%, we've got 9%, 12%, 14%, 14%. But look at us. We're 24%. I'm sorry, we're at impasse, and we're sitting on 24% reserves? Well, who are these folks here? They've got a pretty big reserve, too. That's Chafee. They're at 33%. Well, they must really be holding out on their teachers, huh? Well, that's not the case. As a matter of fact, Chafee, who has the highest reserves, also offers the highest average teacher salaries. Chino Valley, which had the second highest reserves, is offering the second lowest average salary. That's okay. It's not all doom and gloom. There are some bright spots in our budget. Some things are coming back. Some folks are doing pretty good. Those folks are our administrators. That's our next graph. Looky here. This shows over the last 6 years the percent of our budget that we spend on administrators. Look before the bottom fell out. 08, 09. We were putting aside 5.72% for our administrators. And then they took a hit like everybody else. But look, miraculously, this year they're back, right back where they were, 5.72% of our budget. Yay, administrators. They work hard. They work hard. Unfortunately, it's not the same for teachers. We've still got a ways to go before we're at our rightful place in the budget. You like to talk that teachers are second. My question is, second to who? Don't get me wrong, school board. Teachers are just like everybody else. We like to hear that we're loved and appreciated. But come on. After 7 years, those words are starting to get pretty hollow. And patience is running thin. You see, in business, when you take the same old product and you put it in a new package, you don't call it innovation. That's marketing. And around here, if it's just going to be business as usual, I'm sorry, folks, you can't call that a new vision. That's a PowerPoint of platitudes. It's time for this board to direct this district to put their money where their mouth is. You want to talk about students being first? It takes more than talk. By all means, eliminate combo classes and lower class size. You can do that on your own. That's not something you have to bargain with teachers for. You want to talk about teachers being second? It takes more than talk. Settle a fair contract that reflects the sacrifices made over the last 7 years and the growing complexities and demands of this job. Because until you do, until you act, you're all talk. Thanks for listening.
As you can see, we're using real numbers, real evidence, facts, not myths or urban legends. After the last 2 bargaining sessions, and as yesterday, the ACT has declared we're at impasse.
Amen.
We are here. We have teachers here that are representing every school site. It's because we value the teacher profession. We're asking you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise Arroyo from CSA. And Tracy Freed.